The daily parade rolls down Main Street. It's like they're in a Disney movie. And behind them, towering above it all, is the park's centerpiece, Sleeping Beauty's castle, its golden spires gleaming under the French sun. At first glance, they look like any other family. Perhaps they are diplomats from East Asia, enjoying a day off in Europe. The siblings watch the parade, but their eyes keep drifting back to the castle, almost like they're imagining themselves inside it, maybe as part of a royal family. The thing is, they are royalty. But their life is no fairy tale. When the boy grows up, he'll have his own empire. When the girl grows up, she'll become one of the most dangerous women in the world.
US officials see Kim Yo-jong as one of the key regime insiders. Kim Yo-jong had Kim Yo-jong.
October 2024, Pyongyang, North Korea. A drone crashes in the country's capital. It's been distributing anti-North Korean propaganda leaflets. It was most likely sent by South Korea, another act in the decades-long war between the two formerly united countries. The regime issues an official statement, warning that South Korea can expect the worst if they dare to escalate military tensions again. The worst meaning nuclear retaliation. The border is armed at full wartime strength, on standby to open fire. Nuclear threats coming out of North Korea are nothing new. Kim Jong-un has long threatened to annihilate his neighbor and regularly flaunts the regime's growing nuclear arsenal. What is new is that this threat isn't coming from him. It's coming from her. Kim Jong-un's younger sister, Kim Yo-jong. The world has seen this woman before. In February 2018, at the Winter Olympic Games in South Korea. For the first time in decades, a direct member of the Kim family sets foot on South Korean soil. For 3 days, Kim Yo-jong captivates the media, attending meetings, having lunch with South Korea's president, Moon Jae-in, shaking hands. Unlike her brother, she is not intimidating. She is not shouting threats. She is charming, soft-spoken, and diplomatic. For a brief moment, it feels like North Korea might be changing course. Maybe this is the start of a new era, a path to peace. But the Yo-jong people see in South Korea is just one side of her. Soon, the world will see the other. North Korea is a country built on control. Every piece of information is carefully managed by the regime. Outside the DPRK, we like to think that we're in control of our own information. But just as you're watching this, data brokers might be collecting and selling your personal data, your home address, phone number, online searches, and even financial information. This data doesn't just fuel spam calls and scam attempts, it could even affect your insurance rates and future job applications. That's where Incogni comes in to fight back for you. The service scans the web for your exposed data, sends automated removal requests, and keeps rescinding them to ensure your data stays deleted. It regularly rescans to keep data brokers from sneaking your info back into circulation, and lets you track it all in a clean, real-time dashboard. Take back your privacy now at incogni.com/FernTV and use the code FernTV for an exclusive discount on a 1-year plan. Remember, you probably can't erase yourself from the internet completely, but Incogni helps you regain control over your digital footprint. In North Korea, images and stories matter. The Kims aren't just rulers. They are chosen by fate. Their power is divine. Every policy, every decision, every act of the regime serves a single purpose: ensuring the Kim dynasty's survival. Kim Yo-jong was born in 1987, or maybe in 1989. It's hard to verify. In 2011, Kim Jong-il dies unexpectedly. His youngest son, Kim Jong-un, is declared his successor. At his father's funeral, a young woman stands behind him, dressed in black, head tilted to the side, gaze lowered. She weeps like the others, but unlike her brother, nobody knows her name. Kim Yo-jong has spent her entire life in the shadows. Even inside North Korea, her existence is a secret. No photos, no official mention, no trace of her in state media. But that changes in the chaos of succession. At first, she blends in like any other aide, a quiet, dutiful presence in the background. She carries her brother's clipboard, stands at his side, and holds out a heavy crystal ashtray so the chain-smoking dictator can flick away his ashes. To the outside world, she looks just like another assistant. But if you look closely, she's always there, standing behind him at key moments, ensuring everything runs according to plan. Foreign analysts start noticing her presence. Intelligence agencies, journalists, and defectors all begin asking the same question. Who is she? For Kim Jong-un at least, she's a close confidant, the only member of the family he truly trusts. Maybe that has something to do with her childhood in Europe. Switzerland in the mid-90s. Two North Korean children enroll in a private school in the city of Bern. Officially, they're the children of diplomats, but their passport names are fake.
Okay, so
Nobody knows they are really the heirs to North Korea's most powerful family. Here, they're just two foreign kids in a country far away from Pyongyang. To their classmates, they seem like normal kids, playing soccer and inviting friends over to their modest apartment, going on ski trips, traveling Europe, and visiting Disneyland. A regular family. Except they're not.
우리는 평범한 집에서 살았고 평범한 가족처럼 행동했다. 나는 그들의 어머니처럼 행동했다.
Their mother isn't their mother. Ko Young-suk, their aunt, was sent to care for them in Switzerland. Years later, she defected to the US, where she appears to have been living in secrecy ever since.
Ko Young-suk told the Post she traveled from North Korea to take care of Kim, his older brother, and younger sister when they attended this boarding school in Switzerland.
And just like her fake mother, one day the two fake diplomat kids vanished too. No warnings, no goodbyes. Jung-un and Yo-jung are pulled from school and sent back to North Korea.
Are you fucking joking?
After Yo-jung's stint in Switzerland, she studies computer science at Kim Il-sung University in Pyongyang. In 2014, 3 years after taking over as supreme leader, her brother is forced to undergo medical treatment. During that time, Yo-jung takes over state duties. By the end of the year, her brother appoints her first deputy director of the party's propaganda and agitation department, a department infamous for controlling every image, every speech, and every news article inside North Korea. In 2017, Kim Yo-jung is officially promoted to the Politburo, the ruling elite of North Korea's single-party system. She now has a seat at the highest table of power. But her true talent remains in propaganda. Wherever Kim Jong-un appears, Kim Yo-jung is there too, not just as his sister, but as his PR manager, his shadow. She sets the stage before he arrives and follows him like a ghost when he leaves. A year later, for the first time in her life, she takes center stage.
The sister of the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has become the first member of her family to visit South Korea since the 1950-53 Korean War. Kim Yo-jong is part of a high-level delegation attending the opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics.
At the 2018 Winter Olympics, she charms South Korea in the international press. And there seems to be a strategy to this. For years, Kim Jong-un has been perceived as a ruthless dictator, a nuclear-obsessed madman. Under Yo-jung's guidance, that image softens. She's carefully rebranding her brother's image. In 2018, North Korea suddenly seems to open up.
She will be meeting with President Moon on Saturday. If the meeting goes well, some experts say the visit could lay the foundations for a possible inter-Korean summit between President Moon and Kim Jong-un.
2 months later, Kim Jong-un and South Korean President Moon Jae-in meet at the border. They shake hands, they laugh, applause erupts on both sides. That same year, Donald Trump also meets Kim Jong-un in Singapore, a historic summit. The two leaders sit at a large table, signing a historic document, a joint declaration stating that North Korea intends to denuclearize. Next to Trump is Mike Pompeo, the president's Secretary of State. Next to Kim Jong-un is his sister. She stands there, silently watching as the world dares to believe one of its most feared nuclear powers might actually disarm. But something about her feels off. Her appearances, her gestures, her smile, they all seem a little too perfect. Every move feels somewhat calculated. And this is just the beginning.
There is very limited immediately available evidence, but from what we know, she fulfills the role of the communicator with South Korea and with the United States. But she was also tasked with propaganda functions in the party apparatus.
That's Ildar Daminov, a political scientist at the Central European University in Vienna. He spent years studying North Korea and its power structures. Yo-jung appears to be North Korea's top propaganda chief. Since she has taken over, the way the regime communicates with the world has changed significantly.
It became much more flexible, and it also went online, so there were multiple attempts to also leverage some Western platforms such as YouTube, for instance, to broadcast certain North Korean points of view.
Under Kim Yo-jung's watch, North Korean propaganda has gone digital. We've already covered the bizarre world of North Korean influencers in a previous video, link in the description. But Yo Jong's real role now seems to be that of the regime's chief foreign policy mouthpiece. And in North Korean terms, that translates to one thing above all: threats and insults. In 2020, Yo Jong orders the destruction of a so-called liaison office, an embassy-like facility right at the border of Kaesong, a fragile diplomatic connection between the two nations that has been established just a couple of years prior. Her once polite smile is gone. Her rhetoric gets more resentful and insulting. In 2022, Kim Yo Jong addresses the nation in a rare public speech. It's the first time the North Korean public hears her voice in state media.
이 방역 전쟁의 나날 거열 속에 시비 앓으시면서도 자신이 끝까지 책임져야 하는 인민들 생각으로 한순간도 자리에 누우실 수 없었던 원수님과
The event is staged to praise her brother. He has a high fever, but never lays down to rest, too worried about his people. Officials wipe tears from their faces. He has COVID, but according to her, the real culprit isn't COVID. It's South Korea.
우리 공화국에 비루스가 유입될 수 있는 위험한 짓거리를 계속 행하는 경우 우리는 비루스는 물론 남조선 당국 것들도 박멸해 버리는 것으로 대답할 것입니다.
When South Korean activists send leaflets across the border in 2024, Kim Yo Jong allegedly orders a response in kind: balloons floating back over the DMZ, carrying bags of garbage and feces. In October, she calls Ukraine and South Korea vicious dogs bred by the United States. And in another written statement later that month, her final words are just as blunt: there can never be a change of the line. Have sanction, pressure, and threats stopped us? They've only made us stronger. If one is not a fool, one should not do a stupid act of expecting our change. North Korea never honored its agreement with the US. Instead of dismantling its nuclear program, it doubled down, conducting missile tests in open defiance. Meanwhile, South Korea and the US have long resumed their military exercises. In 2023, then US President Joe Biden formally pledged military support to South Korea should a nuclear war with the North ever break out. North Korea is forging alliances of its own. In June 2024, Kim Jong-un and Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a military pact, vowing mutual military assistance. Soon after, North Korea sent thousands of soldiers to Russia to support its troops in the war against Ukraine. North Korea is now actively inserting itself into a conflict that stretches far beyond its own borders. And while Kim Yo Jong hurls one aggressive threat after another into the world, her brother carefully cultivates the image of a benevolent leader. It's almost as if they switched roles. Or, as Sung Yoo-min, author of the only biography on Yo Jong, puts it, he's the bad cop, she's the even worse cop. In 2024, North Korea released a surreal propaganda video that went viral. Cheerful children wave flags, factory workers clap and sing, soldiers go crazy playing violins in an orchestra, while grinning female soldiers leap into the air, giddy with joy. It's a carefully staged and almost hilarious spectacle of devotion. The real North Korea looks different. It's a country where people are kidnapped, thrown into prison camps, publicly executed for the slightest defiance. A country that holds its people hostage within its borders, choosing famine over reform, weapons over survival, missile tests over food supplies, nuclear threats over diplomacy. A brutally ruled nation with at least 50 nuclear warheads at its fingertips. Historically, the Kim dynasty has always passed power from father to son. Kim Jong-un's health is a question mark. He's only in his early 40s, but rumored to have severe health problems, likely due to his chain smoking, excessive drinking, and rumored heart issues. If something were to happen to him tomorrow, North Korea would be left with no clear successor. At least, no male successor. In recent years, North Korea has quietly been introducing another Kim to the public, Jong-un's daughter, Ju-ae. She's been seen at missile launches, standing beside her father, eerily composed for a child. State media call her the beloved daughter and the respected child. Some analysts believe she's being groomed as the next supreme leader. The thing is, Kim Ju-ae is only 11. If her father were to die unexpectedly, she likely wouldn't be ready to rule. Even though women have taken on more visible, more authoritative roles in Kim Jong-un's regime, the country remains deeply patriarchal. Women face systematic abuse, sexual violence, and forced labor, often at the hands of state officials. 70% of defectors are women. Most flee into China, where many are trafficked or exploited, because escaping North Korea is nearly impossible. If a woman were to succeed Kim Jong-un, it would likely be one with the power, experience, and authority to do the job. His sister. Once a soft-spoken figure in the background, Kim Yo-jong has become one of the most powerful and feared figures in North Korea. Under her watch, the regime has learned to manipulate its global image more carefully than ever before. But her power isn't just about controlling narratives. By 2021, Yo-jong has reportedly followed her brother's path. According to multiple sources, she personally ordered the execution of high-ranking government officials, simply because they annoyed her. But perhaps the most dangerous thing about her is that she has a direct line to Kim Jong-un, the one person who sits at the nuclear button and trusts her judgment more than anyone else's. No one knows just how far she's willing to go. Back in 2019, on a cool spring day in Hamburg, a 25-year-old woman took the stage at one of the largest digital marketing conventions in the world. And she'd say something that would make a lot of people angry.
Mein Name ist Verena, ich bin die 4. Generation von Balsen. Wir backen seit 130 Jahren Kekse. Ich würde gerne mal mit euch ein Experiment ausprobieren und wir gucken einfach mal, was passiert. Ich würde gerne mal heute nicht versuchen, irgendwas vermeintlich Schlaues zu sagen.
Balsen is a baked goods company, most known for their Leibniz butter biscuit, the Choco Leibniz milk chocolate biscuit, as well as animal crackers. They're a German family-run, cookie-cutter company with pastries that are profitable, producing hundreds of millions in yearly revenue. And that revenue is something that Verena made the mistake of appreciating a bit too publicly.
Mir gehört ein Viertel von Balsen, da freue ich mich auch drüber. Es soll mir auch weiterhin gehören. Ich will Geld verdienen und mir Segelyachten kaufen von meiner Dividende und sowas.
This was cringe, not only because she was a 25-year-old family-made millionaire who wanted a yacht, but also because her wealth came from a company that had used forced labor during World War II. From around 1940 to the end of the Second World War, the Balsen Company obtained hundreds of forced laborers to be used at their factory in Hanover. What made things worse for Verena, though, is that she did not take kindly to the criticism of her speech. Later, she told a German tabloid that the forced laborers were before her time, that they were paid exactly as much as German workers, and that the company treated them well. Surprisingly, people didn't think it was a particularly clever clapback, and days later, Verena was taken out of the spotlight and issued a public apology. But it was too late. Balsen stirred the pot, so investigative reporters decided to add some more ingredients. They discovered that the owners of the Balsen biscuit empire had been members of the Nazi Party and donated to the SS. Many of the involuntary laborers used in Hanover came from a factory in Kiev, a factory that the Balsen family had taken over after Nazi occupation. So the Balsens hired a German historian, Manfred Krieger, to investigate them, only after it was convenient for them to do so. Now, whether the Balsens are a family to be upset about, we don't know. Verena Balsen is no Nazi, but we can tell you whether the Balsen family history and how they handled it is truly unique. It's not. The Balsens aren't alone, and they're so far from the worst. Germany is the economic powerhouse of the European Union, a country with an iron grip of the global manufacturing industry and a specialized, powerful Mittelstand. But the strong German economy is built on top of a business tradition that's quite different from other Western countries. Some of its largest and most important enterprises are largely or fully controlled by families. And families have histories.
My name is David de Jong, a Middle East correspondent for the Dutch Financial Daily, and I wrote Nazi Billionaires. Nazi Billionaires is the story of 5 of Germany's wealthiest business dynasties, the way they profiteered from the Third Reich, the way they got involved with Hitler's regime, the way they got away with the crimes, and the way the heirs are dealing with these crimes today.
This is a video about 3 of these families. Families that share a difficult Nazi past, but also produce products that you likely know and can consume today. And 3 families who, instead of fully acknowledging that past, have twisted and turned and fought trying to hide it until, of course, it was convenient not to. Families that have accrued so much wealth and top financial leaderboards, but with names and faces you don't know. So this story starts with a face you probably do. Heinrich Himmler was one of the leading figures of the Nazi Party and one of the main architects of the Holocaust. He was appointed by Hitler to the Reichsführer of the Schutzstaffel, which eventually led him to the position of Reichskommissar for the strengthening of the German ethnic stock. Himmler could decide who was German in occupied areas and how to efficiently handle those who were not. He established the first concentration camp, which impressed Hitler so much that Himmler was tasked with establishing the entire system. He was entrusted with implementing the final solution of the Jewish question, and his Einsatzgruppen alone killed nearly 2 million people. But we're not here to talk about the atrocities of Himmler. We're here to talk about his friends. The Freundeskreis der Wirtschaft was a group of German industrialists that served as a middle ground between Nazi Party and industry. The group coordinated around 1 million German marks to be used by Himmler outside of budget, which included the Aryan eugenics research. One of the especially passionate Nazis in that group was the CEO of a company most know a bit too well. Richard Kosolowski.
He was a Nazi ideologue. He had a portrait of Hitler in his office.
He handed out signed copies of Mein Kampf to new employees, and in Himmler's inner circle, he attended practically every meeting at the Aero Club in Berlin. Kosolowski funded Himmler's Lebensborn, the plan to support Aryanization by seizing children from parents, categorizing them, and reassigning them to different ones, with the unwanted ones being murdered in concentration camps. Luckily for Kosolowski, he was the stepfather of a child who would never have to be reassigned. Rudolf August Oetker.
Dit is een Big American's Pizza.
Kruimende kandijkoekjes. Lay it La Familia way.
Führerische Pizza-Restaurante. Dr. Oetker.
Go to a frozen food section of your local supermarket or look for baking supplies, and you'll be sure to encounter that same name. Dr. Oetker is one of the largest family-run German multinationals on the planet, with yearly sales revenue in the multi-billions. Rudolf August considered his stepfather Richard Kosolowski, the CEO of Oetker, his real father.
Oh my God, come on.
I couldn't imagine a better father than Richard Kosolowski, Rudolf August said in an interview with a German newspaper more than a half a century later. Nor a better teacher for me.
Unlike his real father, Rudolf August was a real Nazi. Rudolf August was not drafted, but volunteered to join the Waffen-SS.
It was only for the most fervently ideological Nazis who would join the Waffen-SS. It was a very stringent training and a very stringent selection process, so it was abnormal in that sense.
Rudolf August later claimed that he didn't know the extent of the concentration camps, which was weird because he trained in one.
So part of Rudolf August Oetker's training took place at Dachau concentration camp, and he would later claim that the barracks were separate from the concentration camp, but in fact it was part of the same complex, and concentration camp prisoners would clean the barracks of the aspiring SS officers that were trained there.
Yet, Rudolf's Nazi past never really mattered after the war ended. Although his family benefited from Aryanizations, the use of forced enslaved labor, Rudolf August was detained only for his role in the Waffen-SS. The denazification of Rudolf August Oetker never even went to trial. Instead, he was exonerated by an internal subcommittee made up entirely of his company's own employees. A few months later, British officials confirmed his exoneration. He lied that he was forcibly moved to the Waffen-SS, even though he volunteered and also had a knack for Aryanizing property. So instead, Rudolf August was made CEO. And over the next few decades, he turned Dr. Oetker into a multi-billion euro empire. When he died in 2007, the company was distributed among his 8 children, making each of them individual billionaires.
And they each inherited a similar stake in the Dr. Oetker conglomerate, which at this point was one of the largest privately owned companies in Germany.
But Rudolf was a quiet man, so he was able to hide his past quite well. In a press statement to us, the Oetker Group clarified that he in fact vetoed any investigation into the Nazi history of the company until after his death. It wasn't until 2008, a year after his death, that Rudolf's children commissioned historians to truly understand their company's history. And an uncomfortable history they found. In 2013, August Oetker, his eldest son, acknowledged that his father was a Nazi. But this announcement does not mean that the family was suddenly okay with being fully transparent about their past. Rudolf August married multiple times. Although the older Oetker children were open to commissioning the study, the 3 younger children were less receptive. The mother of the 3 youngest, Maya, rejected the investigation's claim that her late husband was a committed Nazi, but Rudolf was, of course, a quiet man. In order to maintain harmony and unity within his family, Rudolf August had hoped that his eldest son, August, would train Alfred to take over the position of CEO, a forced power split between oldest and youngest. But when August gave up operational management, he'd promote his younger brother Richard instead. This was enough to split Dr. Oetker into 2, and today they still remain ideologically divided.
There were 2 foundations under Dr. Oetker.
But where the eldest siblings decided to change the foundation named after their Nazi grandparents, the youngest siblings decided to keep their Rudolf August Foundation
as it is, without any kind of cognizance of his history as a Waffen-SS officer.
In a statement to us, the younger siblings' communications team argues that the name of their foundation is kept because the family has already transparently dealt with their past through their commissioned historical study and provenance research into the Oetker art collection. A majority of Oetker sales are generated outside of Germany, but go to their English site and you'll have a hard time figuring out who Rudolf August Oetker or his stepfather really were. You can find the link to the study they commissioned, but you can only buy that book in German. In English, you can learn that Rudolf August rebuilt and helped diversify Dr. Oetker on the company website, but you'll see no mention of him voluntarily signing up to join the Waffen-SS. Today, his children are some of the wealthiest people on the planet, and although the Oetker children have put some questionable effort into bringing attention to their family's Nazi past, there are some families who have put in no effort at all. In this video, we are discussing dark family secrets, which should be revealed and openly discussed. But there are certain types of information that should stay private. Information such as your personal data. Online data breaches are rising worldwide. The business of data brokers is booming. They sell aggregated profiles with security numbers, login credentials, addresses, and much more. If your mailbox is full of spam, or if you're receiving a robocall from time to time, it might be because you're on some of those lists. Incogni, the sponsor of today's video, reaches out to data brokers on your behalf, requests your personal data removal, and deals with any objections from their side. Through the link in the description below, and with the code FERNTV, you can get an exclusive 60% discount on an annual Incogni plan. Our sponsors enable us to fund time and money consuming projects like this one, so feel free to check out Incogni. We think that data protection cannot be valued highly enough. In May of 2017, 3 people met at a restaurant outside of Munich. A publisher, a journalist from a Bavarian public state broadcaster, and a man named Ernst Knut Stahl. According to the publisher, under oath, Stahl had said, "There's danger ahead. There's a street in New York with lots of investment bankers, lawyers, and so forth. Coincidentally, they are all Jews, but that's not relevant here. They want to push Germany into ruin. They control everything." The publisher also said that Stahl followed up by saying that there should be a newspaper, one that actually writes the truth, and that Peter Bartels, a former editor-in-chief of Bild, would help. Months later, a newspaper did show up with Bartels helping write it, a paper openly supportive of the AfD. The AfD was a relatively young political party in Germany at this point. Initially anti-Euro, it shifted course at the end of 2014, during the refugee crisis. Today, it is considered right-wing extremist and racist by the German Institute for Human Rights. Now, the question naturally arose, where did the newspaper's funding come from? See, Ernst Knut Stahl, the man who talked about Jews controlling everything, was not any man. He was the asset manager for one of the wealthiest German billionaires, August von Fink Jr. August Jr. was a private man, the eldest of the von Fink empire. He passed away in late November 2021 and left behind an investment in real estate empire where the real estate is set to encompass
more than half of Munich city center and much of the land surrounding Munich, which is some of the priciest land in the world.
But when August von Fink Jr. was alive, you wouldn't find him living in Germany because he had moved to Switzerland for tax reasons. And it's that knack of evading any cost that he must have gotten from his father. Back in 1931, in Berlin's Hotel Kaiserhof, Hitler was meeting Germany's wealthiest to ask them to acquire weapons for the SA, the paramilitary wing of the Nazi Party. The first man Hitler would speak to would be August von Fink Sr., the father of August von Fink Jr. The senior controlled Merck Fink and held significant shares of Allianz and Munich Re because his father
co-founded the Munich Re and Allianz, two of the world's largest insurers and reinsurers today.
Von Fink, known for being the stingiest man in Bavaria, had little issues with raising money for Nazis. August von Fink Sr. helped promise 5 million Reichsmarks via Allianz to arm the SA. And for his financial services, von Fink was rewarded with political advantages by being able to target his Jewish enemies.
Once the persecution against Jews really ramped up in 1937-38, he wrote a letter saying that one of his main competitors, Martin Aufhauser, should be expropriated, basically on the basis of the bank being in Jewish ownership.
Fink wrote a letter to Munich's Chamber of Commerce that the German private banking sector is still largely made up of non-Aryan firms. The gradual cleansing of this trade, which is so strongly influenced by the Jewish element, must not be halted by the granting of applications for exemptions, but must be promoted by all means. Aufhauser's bank was seized during Kristallnacht, and von Fink got a taste for a forbidden fruit that he wouldn't stop chasing. J. Dreyfus was one of the largest German Jewish private banks, and Fink put the Jewish owner, Willy Dreyfus,
under so much pressure that he ended up selling the bank far under the market value, what the bank was worth.
Fink also went ahead and did the same thing to the Rothschilds.
Are you fucking kidding me?
August von Fink Sr. ended up buying the Rothschild Bank for tens of millions under its market value, while its owner, its main owner, the Rothschild heir, was held captive by the SS in a hotel in central Vienna.
Now, von Fink was not merely a financial opportunist, he was also a real Nazi.
August von Fink Sr. was very much a committed Nazi, even though he tried to hide it as best he could after the end of the Second World War.
Hans Schmidt-Polex, an Allianz executive and friend of von Fink, stated after the war that von Fink believed that Hitler was sent by God to save the German people. Fink remained a convinced Nazi who would have died for his beliefs if necessary. But for his beliefs, he did not have to die. Fink didn't actually have to do much at all.
So at August von Fink denazification trial, strange things started to happen. Evidence started to disappear from the case file. Witnesses who had incriminating evidence against von Fink suddenly didn't turn up. But most importantly, Julius Herf watered down the indictment against von Fink. Long after the trial ended, there was reporting that Herf had been blackmailed by von Fink's accomplices. Herf was homosexual. There were rumors of letters that he had sent to younger men that were used against him as part of the blackmail.
And so von Fink escaped justice, although he did have to pay around 2,000 marks towards a general restitution fund, but he appealed it on the basis of a knee injury that he had sustained during World War I, which was actually granted.
He never had any kind of criminal penalty against him. He went off scot-free.
By 1970, August von Fink Sr. became Germany's second richest man. After his death, his eldest son, August Jr., inherited his fortune, and the Jr. sold the Allianz and Merck Fink shares to Barclays Bank. When August Jr. died in 2021, his wife and their children inherited a fortune estimated around 8 billion euros. However, attempt to find any acknowledgement by that family of their wealth's past, and it seems little can be found.
There's no evidence that August von Fink Jr. or his children or his wife have any indication that they want to come clean with regards to the Nazi past of the von Fink dynasty.
But the von Fink family may not even be the most wealthy, but silent of the Nazi billionaire dynasties. In September of 2015, the richest woman in Germany and one of the richest people in the entire world spoke at a press conference.
Deutschland ist ein Gründerland. Was zur Gründerzeit Männer wie Karl von Linde oder Robert Bosch waren.
Suzanne Kladen is one of the heirs of the most successful German business dynasties in history, BMW. But in a press conference where she references Germany's greatest founders, there's a reason that Kladen makes absolutely no reference to her innovative founder father or grandfather. On a February evening in 1933, a few billionaires met at the official residence of the Reichstag-President Hermann Göring. Present were Baron August von Fink, Kurt Schmidt, a few chemical company executives, Gustav Krupp, Friedrich Flick, and a man named Günter Quandt. Only a few weeks earlier, Adolf Hitler had seized power as Chancellor, and he met the businessmen that February night personally to tell them the future of the nation. On March 5, 1933, the people of Germany would vote in Germany's last election. If Hitler were to be elected, the titans of German industry would get a stable business climate, but only if he was elected. That night, the founder of BMW helped write off a check for thousands of Reichsmarks to a man who had just told him that his goal was the end of German democracy. Günter was one of the largest private industry users of forced and slave labor in Nazi Germany. And Günter is special because unlike the other military industrialists, like Krupp and Flick, he was never held accountable for his crimes, and crimes he did commit. He became a leader of the armament economy, fueling the Third Reich with munition and batteries.
Günter Quandt was a brazen opportunist who tried to expand his business empire in all ways possible.
Dude, oh my god!
Through massive weapons production, through the expropriation of Jewish-owned companies, expropriation of companies in German occupied territories,
Damn it!
as well as the mass exploitation of forced slave
I can't get around it!
At his Akkumulatorenfabrik in Hanover, by 1943, forced labor made around half of the workforce.
Seriously, I couldn't get fucking around it.
Which is today known as Varta, which produces
wouldn't
batteries
fucking let me.
AirPods. Had
Also,
a
so
massive new
fucking
factory in
frustrating
Hanover, in the center of Germany.
That it like
In
does
collaboration with the SS, they built a sub-concentration camp on the factory complex. The concentration camp was set up with gallows and an execution area. Prisoners had accidents with boiling hot metal, and hands and arms would get stuck in Günter's machinery, with flesh and bones being ripped off while fully conscious.
Random beatings, executions, no medical care.
The company calculated that there would be a turnover rate of 80 people dying each month, with slaves lasting on average for 6.
Günter Quandt ended up using about 60,000 forced and slave laborers across his battery and weapons companies. But the topic of forced and slave labor did not come up at all during his denazification trial. Neither did the many Aryanizations that he had done all across Europe and in Nazi Germany.
Günter Quandt, like von Fink, was deemed a fellow traveler who only had to pay a monetary fine. He got off scot-free and never received any kind of criminal punishment. But Günter Quandt had a stronger link with Nazi Germany than the supply chain of thousands of slave laborers in exchange for ammunition and batteries. His second wife divorced him and instead married one of the chief architects of the Nazi regime. Goebbels was the chief propagandist and also doting stepfather of Günter and Magda's son, Harold Quandt. Harold Quandt grew up in one of the most radical families in the Third Reich.
And he ended up being the only one of Magda Goebbels' children who survived the Second World War, because Magda Goebbels ended up murdering her 6 children and then committing murder-suicide with her husband.
After the war, he became one of the wealthiest men in West Germany, but he passed away in an airplane accident at the age of 45, leaving his descendants with hundreds of millions. Today, his daughters and Goebbels' step-grandchildren maintain a low profile, having their wealth managed through the Harold Quandt family office, which reports to have 3 sole and 1 majority shareholding in several financial service companies with approximately $17 billion in assets. The inheritors of millions are now silent billionaires today. But as interesting as Harold Quant and his daughters are, it's Herbert Quant that deserves a bit more attention.
Herbert Quant was the eldest son of Günter Quant, and he later became known as the savior of BMW because he saved BMW from bankruptcy in the 1960s.
Today, you can still find a BMW Foundation in Herbert Quant's name, which promotes responsible leadership. And Herbert Quant was quite the responsible leader.
He was a Nazi criminal who built a concentration camp in German-occupied Poland, who exploited thousands of forced and slave laborers, including female concentration captives, at battery factories.
Herbert Quant, like his father, escaped justice. According to Benjamin Ferencz, Nuremberg trial prosecutor, if all the facts had come out at the time, Herbert Quant would have been prosecuted. But he wasn't. Instead, he'd stay one of Germany's wealthiest, leaving a fortune to children who still remain some of the richest people on the planet. Both Suzanne Claudin and her brother, Stefan Quant, have a near half ownership of BMW, with both serving on the supervisory board. And they still run a foundation in the name of their Nazi war criminal father, and even today seem to avoid full transparency.
So, in the summer of 2021, I had sent my questions to the spokesman of Stefan Quant, and some of the questions were never answered, including, do you think that the biography of Herbert Quant on the Herbert Quant Media website is transparent and accurate? And then a few months after I sent the question, overnight, they changed the biography to give a little bit more a semblance of transparency. So it's a very subtle, insidious way of whitewashing.
In a press statement to us, the Quant family office press team mentioned several ways in which the family deals with their ancestors' Nazi past. 1. Stefan and Gabriele Quant have openly spoken about it in an interview with a German newspaper in 2011. 2. Since 2011, the family has supported the Documentation Center for Nazi forced labor in Berlin. 3. Stefan Quant and other family members have met some former forced laborers in person. And 4. Suzanne Claudin supports different Jewish organizations and has received a prize for her engagement. We also asked why the Quants only commissioned research into their Nazi past after a German documentary about this past came out in 2007. The documentary put immense pressure on the family. In their answer, the press office seems to suggest that the family was shaken by the reporting, but did not have all the facts prior to them being made public on TV. However, the documentary also showed the family's unwillingness to help journalists investigate their past.
Seit Beginn unserer Recherchen im Jahre 2002 werden alle Interviewanfragen abgelehnt. Schriftlich heißt es unter anderem, man wolle nur ungern in eine Situation gebracht werden, sich dafür verteidigen oder gar entschuldigen zu müssen, dieser Familie anzugehören.
The family also did not answer some of our questions like why they choose to keep awarding the much criticized Herbert Quant Media Prize for journalists, or if they're planning to change the name of the Herbert Quant Foundation. The biographies on both websites were sent to us by the press office. They mentioned some of his crimes, but commend him nonetheless. He supposedly was, quote, one of the most influential and visionary personalities in German corporate and economic history. He demonstrated daring and farsightedness. After the Second World War, the German population was initially unwilling to discuss and accept guilt. This slowly changed over the years through an emerging culture of remembrance, zu Deutsch, Erinnerungskultur. This is seen as a national responsibility to accept, remember, and learn from the collective radicalization of the country and the horrendous crimes of the Nazi regime. This is formalized in the government financing memorials, museums, and archives. Through history lessons and political education, the nation strives to make National Socialism and the Holocaust graspable on the one hand, and on the other, it intends to form personalities who can resist mass or genocidal violence. It's meant to develop civil courage and a citizen's ability to take part in the democratic process. Erinnerungskultur is much debated in Germany. Has it become too symbolic, maybe too self-serving? But only the fringes ever question its existence.
Je mehr wir darüber nachdenken und daran erinnert werden alle, genauso wird man im Ausland daran erinnert. Und wir müssten endlich mal versuchen, das zu vergessen.
To not partake in Erinnerungskultur is extremely questionable, especially if significant parts of one's wealth originate in war crimes and exploitation. It should not be hidden, but remembered.
No, come on. Dude, fuck off. God damn, that's so fucking dumb. Ugh. Gross. Oh my god, get off of me. Okay.
Mamma mia!
Dude, please, give me a fucking break here. Really? How the fuck? Dude, what? I went right through him. Dog, are you fucking kidding me? How? Dude, how? What the fuck? Oh my fucking god, dude. Dude, what a fucking mess. Wow, I burned like a minute on that. I swear sometimes he can like just perfectly avoid you. I think this can be faster though. Walk to SL. Oh, no idea what's happening now. Wait. THI. What enters THI? Snowman's Land. Oh, shit. Oh my god, Snowman's Land, of course. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. It's something I can't deal with. It's okay. Oh my god. Jesus. Oh, that means I can farm for spawns, though. Are you fucking serious? Here we go! Okay. This can be fast, though. I'm actually very confident. I think I'm confident I can make my record with it. I just Right. Okay. Well, I have to do that now. I guess I only have one chance to do that. Which I forgot as well. Okay, let's not fuck this up this time. Okay. Whatever.
Here we go!
Oh my god, the camera fucking moved. Whatever, let's just finish it. This is not fun. Oh man, I was fucking... Jesus Christ. Yeah, wow, there's a fucking... I'll be fucking... in the house, I'll be fucking sad. not really that slow. Wow. Holy shit. Wow, I think it gave me... Oh, perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. I lost some additional time because of that. Are you? Oh my god. He is in... that is a really bad spot for him to be in. Oh my god. That is actually terrible. Wow, yeah, I gotta say, that's a really, really, really bad spot for one of those. That box, too. Very bad spot. Get in. Get in. Jesus. Holy that was a different one. Yeah, this is gonna take a second. I haven't done motion